Welcome back, everybody. WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. Time in the WHIP studios is 11:15. Flyers lose last night in embarrassing fashion, 6-1. They're now down 3-0 in the series. And now joining us on the hotline is a man that works on the WIP morning show and covers the Flyers for Comcast Sportsnet, and that's the great Al Morganti. Al, it's Zach and Mike. Thanks for a few minutes, and how are you?
No worries. Well, it could be better.
Right? You could be a little bit better, as the Flyers had a really pathetic performance last night. And not even talking about the play on the ice, this was supposed to be a really special night for Philadelphia, as they were honoring the late, great Ed Snyder, the founder of the Philadelphia Flyers. And the first 57 seconds were great when Raffl scores that goal, but after that, it was a complete disaster. You don't have to validate to me how good the Philadelphia fans are, but there are a select few that ruined that night last night. Just what was your reaction to throwing the bracelets on the ice and fans chanting stuff during the moment of silence?
Well, it was embarrassing. I mean, it was, even if it's a minority, it's pretty vocal. You wonder why you're at the game at the beginning. I don't know, I guess you want to draw it in. In this Twitter look at me world, I guess you think during the moment of silence, if you tweet something out vocally, it's like people just lost sense of what they're doing, that there's any actual human beings. So they kind of ruined the moment of silence. It was sort of really embarrassing when it was far better in Washington, the moment of silence, than it was in Philadelphia. So I guess somebody wants to get beer muscles or whatever, and it kind of ruined that. And the end of the game was a disaster too. In between, they had their chances, and I guess the frustration level of watching your team literally get run out of their own building was too much for some people.
I'll have to say, though, I have to give a lot of credit to Lou Nolan, because that's a tough spot that he was in last night, and I thought he did a good job on the PA trying to control those fans, Al.
Yeah, but when you listen to it, I wonder if he's not going to become like a Saturday Night Live character. It's you're instructed by the officials that you're going to take a penalty, and then it sort of sounds like the seventh grade. Well, now you've done it. You're all staying after class. So it came across as a little. Actually, it's funny if you listen to it. If you're removed from the situation, if you're removed from the whole Ed Snyder thing, and you just kind of listen and you go, "Oh my God!" It's like he's a school mom there, telling these people to behave, and they wouldn't behave. And I don't know that the league doesn't have to kind of figure out what to do in these situations. A power play chance at that spot, it's no big deal. The team was getting hammered, but if you have an overtime game and this happens, I don't know that they're not opened up for some real chaos. If a referee makes a bad call in overtime, and let's just say that this game had gone to overtime, and a referee makes a horrible call, and they start throwing things on the ice, you're gonna give them another 2 minutes? You've then decided the game. Well, I think this is a monster for the league to address here. They've been lucky. They've been fortunate that they've only called it in kind of lopsided situations. But there's no wording to that effect. So they're wide open for a real horrible decision to be made if this should happen in a real life overtime situation in the playoffs.
Definitely something to think about as we're talking to Al Morganti. You saw Wayne Simmons on the ice telling the fans to stop. Claude Giroux after the game was a bit disappointed. One player, Ryan White, said, "I love the Philly fans. I would have done that too." Do you have a problem with what Ryan White said?
I guess I would if I'm with the organization. So you just can't say that, although I believe he would have. It takes all sorts of characters to make up a team. That's why coaches are paid so much money. I think he just wanted it to be known that he understood. He's in tune with the passion of Philadelphia fans, and to cheer, to boo. He's been that kind of a player all along from wherever he's played, Montreal, here, wherever. But I think the organization should. It's hard to know what to say in those cases because you're taught when you come in, and it's a basic tenet here: do not criticize the fans. Whatever you do, don't criticize the fans. It's a battle you can't win. So unfortunately, he lives by that rule, and it turned out to be a 180 from what he should have said.
We're talking to an analyst on Comcast Sportsnet Philadelphia, and that's Al Morganti. And Al, as long as we're talking about post-game comments, on the flip side, Barry Trotz, the head coach of the Washington Capitals, he said post-game that the Flyers effectively were giving up in the third period, more or less. What did you think of those comments from the head man, the bench boss in Washington?
Well, I like Barry Trotz as a coach. He's one of the best. He'll probably be the coach of the year. I don't know you want to go there at that point. You just worry about your own team going through a round and scoring on their power play. I don't think you need to feed whatever cheese the Flyers still have left. He had a team that really couldn't, once that power play got going, they were so tired, they were exhausted. The Flyers penalty killers just literally couldn't even move side to side, and they were just getting slaughtered out there on the ice. I don't know that it was his place to kind of be the spokesman for the league on, that's not the kind of product. It wasn't a matter of fights. It was a hit by Belmar, but he's not a malicious player. He's got no reputation like that. It wasn't an intent to injure. I don't think that was a case of we don't want to play anymore. I think he hit a player that was in a vulnerable spot. And then, frankly, he has a team whose power play all of a sudden is super pumped up, unstoppable, basically, against a team that's just its energy's evaporated. So I would have stayed away from that. I mean, if I were, preferably would have just gone after the fans for what they did. I thought it was a little over the line to go at the Flyers' effort level.
And obviously the Flyers took that 1-0 lead, and then it was 1-1 for a large part of the game until Ovechkin had the icebreaker. It was a long-range shot. Do you think Mason should have been able to stop that one? I know it was a blistering shot, and 9 times out of 10, Ovechkin's going to score, but do you still think Mason could have caught that one?
I don't think he should score 1 time out of 10 on that shot. That's a save by the goalie. It went under the glove. He came out to challenge him. Gudas gave him a full view. Didn't tip it. Didn't screen. Basically, let the shooter go 1-on-1, and it wasn't even a full blown torpedo. I mean, maybe he caught him because he snapped it rather than pull back to completely get everything into it, launch it. But you got to have that. I mean, and you can tell he wasn't set by the way he fell afterwards. He wasn't set, and he wasn't ready for the shot. That was a really, really bad goal.
Mason was sensational down the stretch, but in this series, he hasn't played great. Had that brain fart of a goal in Game 2 that he let up from the blue line, and then last night he allowed some questionable goals as well. Does he play in Game 4, Al?
I don't think he will. Now, we have a coach that we don't have a real good track record on here. I wouldn't think so. And in part of it, Mason's play, but part of it also, you have to do something here to change the karma. And that's the one thing you can do. I mean, you're down 3-0. You might as well literally pull a goalie. And I think that's the card he's going to play. But I don't know Neubert's fitness level since coming back from injury. Now, you have a limited practice. They were so tired coming down the stretch. If he's ready to go and completely, like healthy and has got some games, get some timing down, I'd be surprised if he went back to Mason for this game.
Let's get back to the special teams, because that's really been the difference in this series. And, hey, the Capitals are a superior team. There's a reason they have the President's Trophy, and they are that number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. But the numbers don't lie. The Flyers 0-13, the Capitals 8-17. Just what have you seen from the special teams that have made this thing so one-sided?
Well, the Flyers' penalty kill hasn't been top-notch for 3 years now, and, it's something they have to address. So, I mean, that's been a weakness. I don't think they were aggressive enough in this. I think they're kind of fearful of making a mistake, which is understandable when you've got Ovechkin out there. And they simply want to block lanes and stay in a close box, it looks like. I think you have to risk it and be a little more aggressive on your penalty kill here and go at the points and go at Ovechkin. And, you try to block lanes, but you also have to get to the player. So I think Dave Hextall should let him off the leash a little bit there on their penalty kill. The power play has been just a huge problem. It's the reason they're not making this the series that it could have been. I'm not saying they could have won the series, but it could have been a lot closer. They lived off Gostisbehere and Giroux for a long while here. Gostisbehere looks like he's kind of gassed a little bit. Giroux also. But more than just that, their reads have been studied, taped, defensed against, and teams have adapted to Gostisbehere running this thing from the one side. And the other part of that triangle that's collapsed is Voracek. So when you've scouted the Gostisbehere to Giroux thing, whether it basically is throw the puck in, Giroux pulls up at the circle and sends it back to Gostisbehere, they might play catch and they might send it across. But once that angle's taken away and you've kind of pressured Gostisbehere on that side, the Voracek isn't an option anymore because his game has gone south since his injury. And that's really dramatically changed everything. And the other thing it does is it negates Simmons going out front because there's no shot to come through because it's been covered. They've pressured. They've been far more aggressive on their penalty kill than the Flyers have on theirs. And if you look at it, had they scored even one or two power play goals early in games 1 or 2, you have a whole different kind of a series here, at least the pressure put on Washington. There's no fear of the Flyer power play. So they can go in, they can play more physically. They play a physical game anyway. Now, they're going to be missing Orpik, so they'll miss some of that. But they have no fear that, well, you're not going to be able to kill a penalty. They've killed them all. So that's really, really hurt the Flyers. And the Caps power play, it's good enough as it is. Now you've got, now it's on steroids, this thing. It was boys against men on that power play. It was the Discovery Channel watching a lion go at a deer. It was just that bad. I mean, the Flyers were deer in the headlights in this thing, and I think that's where Trotz was talking about. It didn't look competitive. It did. As they say, the optics of it were very, very bad. It almost looked like a team in a situation in amateur hockey where you have every player touch the puck twice before you take a shot. That's how lopsided it was. And that certainly has to stop.
And I agree with you, Al. I really do think that this Caps power play, everyone knew it was going to be good, but you mentioned that it's been like on steroids partially because of how many 5-on-3 advantages they also have had. But getting back to the Caps penalty kill, I actually think they've been more impressive. When you look at their last 10 first-round games, they shut out the Islanders last year. They went 0 for 14 on the power play in that 7-game series. Now the Flyers can't score on the power play. Do you think it's been more of the Caps penalty kill that's been impressive or the Flyers power play that's been less impressive?
I think the Flyers power play in this case. And when you look at the Caps penalty kill, you can't take the goalie out of it. Even the Flyers got they got 8 shots on goal in the first 2 games in the second game on the power play. 8 good shots on goal, and Holtby made the saves. Whenever you have a really good penalty kill, your goalie's your best penalty killer. And I think that's the part of that. The Flyers' power play isn't even. It's Giroux and Voracek. I actually would. I wouldn't think I'd put it past them to use that second unit as a first unit. But as far as the penalty kill, yeah, the Caps are good at it. The goalie's very good at it. But I don't know what's with Giroux. Really hasn't. I mean, he's been a very good playoff player. I mean, his point per game in the playoffs, you look at the 2 guys, he's 1.05 points per game, and that's between, guys like Phil Esposito. I mean, Guy Lafleur's ahead of. That's a pretty good playoff player. Something's up with his game. I don't think it's injury. I think maybe he's tired, and I think maybe the fact that the magic with him and Gostisbehere has just disappeared.
On the way out with Al Morganti, who joins us from WIP and Comcast Sportsnet. We've seen teams come back in sports down 0-3. This series is over to me. The question is just in how many games. Saw the Flyers a few years ago come back from 0-3 to beat the Bruins. Everyone will reference the Yankees, Red Sox whenever you have an 0-3 hole. Do the Flyers end this thing in 4 games so that they get sent home on Wednesday night, or do we say this back to Washington?
Well, I think the quotes you mentioned from Trotz, the Washington coach, may pump them up for this next game, and nobody wants to get swept. I would think the effort level, at least in the latter points of the game, would be greater. I don't see any way the Flyers can come out of this thing. I mean, I didn't think they were going to win this series to begin with, and I thought they were going to have a hard time winning 2 games. I guess you can crank it up for this one game here, but to me, it just looks like a case of, you're gonna be gone. It just matters, where do you want to where do you want to take the bullet, at home or on the road? I mean, maybe the Caps let up a little bit. They get a little full of themselves, and they let this thing go another game, maybe. But I really don't think it's almost like a mercy ending here if it ends in 4.
Well, I'll just say this before we let you run, Al. You got me all pumped up for football season, actually, because when I called you on your phone was playing Shipping Up to Boston, and you know me, I'm a big Patriot fan, but that Gronk and Bennett combination looks special this year coming up for our Pats, Al.
Yeah. I'm more of a baseball guy. I do like I like Brady a little more than a little bit. So a little off of. I'm far more Eagles and Flyers. It's just the baseball team I like up there, and that's not going so well.
Al, thanks so much. We appreciate it. You're the best.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
There's Al Morganti joining us on the hotline, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. Time the WHIP studios is 11:30. Good perspective from Al on the Flyers as this thing is basically all but over. It just depends how many games. I told you yesterday that I thought the Flyers would lose Game 3, come back to win Game 4. But after last night, it's tough to give you any reason why the Flyers would win Game 4. But maybe they do get a little bit fired up. This has been a team that has had a really special season, and it's been an unexpected one, making the playoffs, and they're still a year in front of their plan. So I do believe that winning a playoff game does help the camaraderie of a team. And yes, they're going to lose this series. I'll say they lose it in 5 still, though, although it has a look like a big-time sweep coming up on Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I've been saying for about 3 or so weeks, once we saw that the Flyers were likely going to sneak into that spot, the Capitals are that good. This really has nothing to do with the Flyers right now. This is a series where the Capitals are that good. The Capitals are the best team in the NHL. They are battle-tested. They've wanted to be in this spot. They're proving why they're in this spot, and they dominated yesterday 6-1. They are that good of a team.
So what we'll do right now is we'll take a quick break. Time the WHIP studios is 11:32. When we get back, Tom Hansen will have a WHIP sports update, and then at 11:40, so in 8 minutes, Hall of Fame pitcher, 305 career wins, 2 Cy Young Awards, and a World Series MVP. Tom Glavine will join us to talk a little Mets' Phillies as they play tonight, Game 2 out of a 3-game series as the Mets won last night, led by a dominating pitching performance by Noah Syndergaard and some solo home run shots. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back.